There you go, get him. There he goes, running. Running. Get him, get him, get him, get him. Get him, boy. Get him. He's caught in that tree. Oh, he got him. Get him, boy. Get him.
You know what time it is.
On September 30th, 2022, Hurricane Ian made landfall just south of Georgetown, South Carolina, causing moderate flooding in the streets. Hurricane Ian was a large and destructive Category 4 Atlantic hurricane that caused widespread damage across western Cuba and the southeast United States, especially the states Florida and South Carolina. It was the 9th named storm, 4th hurricane, and 2nd major hurricane of the 2022 Atlantic hurricane season. Ian originated from a tropical wave that moved off the coast of western Africa and across the central tropic Atlantic towards the Windward Islands. The wave moved onto the Caribbean Sea on September 21st, bringing heavy rain and gusty winds to Trinidad and Tobago, the ABC Islands, and the northern coast of South America. It became a tropical depression on the morning of September 23rd and strengthened into Tropical Storm Ian early the next day while it was southeast of Jamaica. Rapidly intensifying into a high-end Category 3 hurricane within 24 hours, Ian made landfall in western Cuba. Ian lost a minimum amount of strength while overland and soon re-strengthened while over the southeastern Gulf of Mexico. It became a high-end Category 4 hurricane early on September 28, 2022, while progressing towards the west coast of Florida. It has tied with several other storms, becoming the 5th strongest hurricane on record to make landfall in the United States. After moving inland, Ian rapidly weakened to a tropical storm before moving back offshore into the Atlantic. It regained intensity and again increased to hurricane strength before making its 2nd landfall in South Carolina. By 3 p.m. on September 30th, over 210,000 customers had lost power in the state from the hurricane. A tidal gauge at Spring-Made Pier in Myrtle Beach reached 10.77 feet, beating the record of 9.8 feet set by Hurricane Isaias, which struck 2 years prior. Although the Spring-Made Pier was not damaged during this storm, 5 other piers, including the Pawley's Island Pier, the Myrtle Beach State Park Pier, the 2nd Avenue Pier, the Apache Pier, and the Cherry Grove Pier, were. This video will show footage of these 5 piers being damaged during the storm, along with footage of a shrimp boat that ran ashore during the storm. The Pawley's Island Pier was a 820-foot pier that was the first pier of the 5 that was damaged during Hurricane Ian. The Pawley's Island Pier first opened in July of 1954, but was quickly destroyed by Hurricane Hazel just 3 months later. The pier was rebuilt and destroyed again by Hurricane Hugo in September of 1989. The pier was once again rebuilt in 1990. The following hurricane footage showing the pier being ripped apart by Hurricane Ian was captured by Howard Bond, who was standing in a stairwell outside a friend's condo at Pawley's Pier Village as Hurricane Ian struck. What strikes me as being remarkable about this footage is that the American flag continued to stand tall as the pier gave way and floated along with the wind-driven waves as Hurricane Ian raged on. The Myrtle Beach State Park Pier stretches 650 feet out into the Atlantic Ocean. It is unclear as to the exact date the pier was built, but I found photos dating back to before 1957. Of the 5 piers featured in this video, the Myrtle Beach State Park suffered the least amount of damage by Hurricane Ian, only losing decking boards and railings. The Second Avenue Pier is one of the longest piers along the Grand Strand. Originally built in 1936 by Julian Scarborough in St. Julian Springs, the Second Avenue Pier stretches 906 feet into the Atlantic Ocean. The pier has been rebuilt twice, first after Hurricane Hazel in 1954 and again after Hurricane Hugo in 1989. According to the city, the pier has been privately owned by the same family since the 1960s. In 2016, Hurricane Matthew damaged the pier, ripping off the left-hand side of the end of the pier. 6 years later, Hurricane Ian ripped the remaining portion of the end of the pier right off. Opened April of 1994, the Apache Pier is the longest wooden pier on the East Coast, stretching 1,206 feet into the Atlantic Ocean. Halfway along the pier, the width increases from 24 feet to 76 feet and creates a 28-foot high canopy with picnic tables. As part of the Apache Campground, the pier is an amenity for campers as well as an attraction for the general public. During the summer, the pier features live entertainment along with concessions. There's also a full-service restaurant at the entrance. The following footage of the Apache Pier during Hurricane Ian was shot by several videographers, including Tracy McCall, Brenda Panett, and Kyle Richardson. As you can see, the Apache Pier took a beating during Hurricane Ian and ended up losing the left-hand side of the end of the pier. The Cherry Grove Pier was built in the early 1950s and extended 980 feet out into the Atlantic Ocean. In 1964, a 1,780-pound world record tiger shark was caught by Walter Maxwell from the Cherry Grove Pier. It remains till this day the only all-tackle world record ever caught in South Carolina. The shark was estimated to have weighed 2,000 pounds when it was caught, but it was not weighed until the next day. The pier has been owned by the Prince family since 1965. In the early 1970s, the pier was renovated into its present form and the tackle shop was expanded and a restaurant was added. It has weathered many hurricanes. In 1989, the pier was destroyed by Hurricane Hugo and rebuilt with a 2-story observation deck. In September of 1999, Hurricane Floyd left its mark on the Cherry Grove Pier by snapping off the observation deck and depositing it 1,000 yards down to beach. It again was remodeled and lengthened. Lydia Strickland captured this powerful video of the Cherry Grove Pier collapsing as Hurricane Ian came ashore, ripping the pier in half. On Thursday, September 29th, 2020, a shrimp boat named Shana Michelle was on its way home to Holden Beach, North Carolina, ahead of Hurricane Ian, when the boat experienced engine issues about 2 miles off the coast of Myrtle Beach. The Coast Guard was called in to rescue 4 people on board the ship via helicopter. The crew anchored it, but Hurricane Ian's powerful wind and storm surge brought the boat onto shore on September the 30th. The boat once belonged to Captain Wayne Magwood, a longtime low-country shrimper and captain out of Shem Creek in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. Captain Magwood originally purchased the vessel in 1987 and hauled it to the low country from Alabama. He then named the trawler the Winds of Fortune and would go on to become the poster child of Shem Creek in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. The Winds of Fortune had been featured on TV shows such as The Amazing Race, Dirty Jobs, as well as the History Channel. Unfortunately, Captain Magwood died in an auto-pedestrian crash in Mount Pleasant in September of 2020. The Magwood family then sold the vessel in 2020 after owning it for 34 years. It was purchased by a family who owned Holden Beach Seafood, and the boat was renamed to Shana Michelle after the new owner's wife. The boat sat stranded on the beach for 4 days before it was finally removed. The original plan was to remove the boat on Monday, October 3rd during high tide, but that didn't happen because the tide kept 2 smaller tugboats from making it to Myrtle Beach in time. The following day, 2 other shrimp boats were brought in to help pull the Shana Michelle out of the sea and back to its home in Holden Beach. Crews dug a trench out to the ocean, and then a line was wrapped around the Shana Michelle, hooked to 2 other boats so they could pull Shana Michelle out into the waters. It took crews about 2 hours to get the boat loose and back out into the waters. Before you leave, be sure to check out our description page below. This page gives you a brief description of the video you are currently watching, along with the fishing gear we used during the filming of this video. Click onto the Show More link to view all of this information. In upcoming episodes, we'll begin a new segment where we test out products that are sent to us. If you would like your product to be featured on one of our upcoming episodes, our contact and shipping information is also included on this page. I want to thank you for watching our videos, and if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to our channel to get notifications as to when our new videos are available. Meanwhile, here are a few more videos that I think you will like.
You know what time it is.